Au début des années 80, je me souviens des soirées où l'ambiance était chaude et les mecs rentraient. Stan Smith sur pied, le regard froid. Ils scrutaient la salle, le trois quarts en cul roulé autour du bras.
Hello, Stan Smith.
Hello.
I always to say hello, Stan Smith in my life. Like hello, Michael Jordan.
Well, it's great to be back in Paris.
Yeah.
I love this city.
You were talking just before the interview about Paris. It's a city that when you come often.
I come here a couple times a year, obviously for the Roland Garros French Open, and it's it's a city I've been to since 1970. And so I've grown to love it and enjoy coming back here every year.
Did you think that Paris has changed?
A little bit. You know, there's certainly a little bit different vibe here, but generally the tournament Roland Garros is just fantastic, and it's changed dramatically, but it's still one of the great tournaments of the world.
And about the vibe of the city, what did you think has changed?
Well, I think as you see the younger people, and a little bit different. There seems to be trends going on that take place, and a lot of the trends around the world start in Paris. And so it may be clothing trends, the colors, or that sort of thing, and that a lot of times we see it starting here.
Really?
Seems to be.
Yeah. In Paris, I don't know if you know it, but there is what we call the suburbs around.
Yes.
And this is where the street culture started in hip-hop in France and in movies and everything. And your shoes, the Stan Smith, was like a uniform. Did you know that?
Well, not exactly, but I know in New York it's a little bit like that. It's sort of the hip-hop, the superstar.
Run DMC?
Run DMC. And I got to know the Run DMC guys this last year, and it's kind of interesting to see how that culture took place in New York. And I don't know so much about what's happened here in Paris, but...
You just met Run DMC last year?
Yes.
Not before?
Not before, no.
Not like when they were raising hell?
No, no. It was fun. This guy's a great guy.
What did you
Daryl
waited
McDaniel.
for 40 years to meet them?
Well, Daryl McDaniel wrote this song about the superstar and about the hip-hop culture and the shoe, and so it was really the superstar that he came back to really start promoting and relaunch the shoe, and it's only a few years ago.
In France, we had a famous song called Je danse le Mia. From a group called I Am, and they were saying
Stan Smith sur pied, le regard froid.
I didn't know that.
And I didn't know something else. It's like, I would like to talk about your tennis career and your story, because everybody's talking about the shoes, and we've just talked about the shoes.
Yeah.
Let's be done about the shoes.
Okay.
Okay. You grew up in Pasadena, California?
Yes, on the west coast of the United States, near Los Angeles.
Yeah, and you have a strong story with Wimbledon.
Well, one of my goals was to become a member of the U.S. Davis Cup team, to be #1 in the United States, to win Wimbledon, and be #1 in the world. And so I got to the finals of Wimbledon in 1971 and lost to John Newcombe.
L'Australien John Newcombe, à 27 ans, remporte son 3e titre. Voici la balle de match.
And then in 72, I got to the finals again and beat Nastasi in the finals. And both the matches were 5 sets, and it was very close. And so that was one of my goals, to win Wimbledon and then be #1 in the world.
And is it true that at the beginning they didn't wanted you as like the guy who was throwing, taking the ball?
The ball boys, yeah. There was a Davis Cup match in Los Angeles, U.S. versus Mexico, and some of the young kids from where I was training got to go, and they wouldn't let me do it. They thought I was too big and clumsy, and I might bother the players. So That's a true story, but it kind of motivated me to become, you know, a good player, and you know, it's been fun.
I'd like to talk with you about motivation, because when we see like a sport legend as you, the only question I want to know is like, what's in your head? Like, what do you say every day? What's your mantra?
Well, it was pretty simple, really. I wanted to become the best I could possibly be, and I had no idea about those goals I mentioned to you were kind of dream goals, because they weren't really, I wasn't even very good in Southern California of the players of my age. But I had that goal, and then as I got a little bit better, I started to get closer to it, and then realized that maybe I could be the best in the world. And so I think that's the way it goes. It kind of goes like this: you work hard, then you kind of plateau, then you work hard and you plateau, and then all of a sudden you really believe. And that's the difference. You believe that you belong with the top players. And then that's the next step to say, okay, I can really do it. And so each stage sort of motivates to the next stage. It's not like this, but it's a kind of a rocky road. So that was when I really believed. Then that's when then mentally I pushed myself a little harder and had more confidence, because some of the top players said that I could be one of the top players. And when they said that, it doesn't matter what everybody around the street says, but when the top players say that they think that you're one of the top players, then you say, oh, maybe I am. And that makes a big difference.
And what was the hardest moment for you at this time?
Well, it's when you're trying to reach a goal and, you know, losing the finals of Wimbledon. You know, I was this close, 6-4 in the fifth, to winning that title. And that's disappointing. So I think that the great athletes take those experiences that they have, not only just athletes, but anything. They take the experiences and they build upon them rather than letting them get discouraged. And I think that's the key, is that you really look at the positive aspects of every experience and you try to learn from that. And then if you become the best, then you've got a target on your chest. Everyone's trying to get you. So it makes it even more difficult, because then you have to work even harder to stay in that level. And what I did actually was maybe play too much, because all the tournaments want to have you there, and you don't want to disappoint, you know, the tournaments. And so I played a little too much, and I got a little injury on my arm, and so that made it difficult. But
and mentally, what was the hardest, to win or to lose?
well, I think the goal of winning is there, so that's relatively easy. But it's to handle defeat. It's not what happens to you, but how you handle what happens to you, and that's the key. And I have an academy at Hilton Head with young kids, and I try to tell them that very thing, that they're going to have problems, and it's not the fact that you're going to have problems, it's how do you handle that? What do you learn from that? How do you take it from there? And that's in life. I think that's the thing, because everyone's going to have disappointments in their life, and they can either take it where it takes them down, or they can try to learn from it and maybe improve the next time.
And in your personal life, to have like this mental of winner, and to know that life is not like this, but like this, like this, like this, sometimes like this.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times.
Is it a key in the personal life to have this? Or it's impossible to use the sports mentality in the life?
No, I think it's very appropriate to use that in your life. Because in reality, you go like this and you kind of plateau. You think you're going back down to the bottom, but you're really plateauing out. And so it's like this, and it's not like this. You know, you're going back to the bottom. But when you're playing, you feel like you're going down. And then the problem is what people say about you. Because if you believe everything that people say about you, then that can determine how you react to it. And so you have to have a long-term perspective. Certainly in life, you have to have a long-term perspective, because you're going to have disappointments. You're going to have terrible things happen that you can't control. So I try to have a good perspective. And you know, my parents gave me a positive outlook. I try to be around people that are more positive. I have some great mentors and coaches that affect my career, but also my life. And I've always tried to be better. And
Let's say like you fall in love with somebody, so it's like this. You get married, it's like this, and when you divorce, or if you divorce, it's like this, or like, how do you call this?
well, I'm very fortunate. I've got a wonderful wife for 42 years.
So for you, it's
So
like this.
It's like this, and then you actually the last 10 years have been great because we're more comfortable with each other, and you realize that that sudden love of somebody is not going to be like this your whole life. You're going to be growing together, and that's the fun part about it. But it's not easy all the time. It's the same problems. You have issues and you think it's going this way, but really you're kind of plateauing, and maybe it's not growing quite at the same rate. But
So the secret of a good marriage is to be like this.
yeah, that's the way I feel. You want to just be steady and grow, you know. So it's not like this, but it's just continue to be that way, and realizing that, you know, you're not going to change your spouse necessarily, and she's not going to change you dramatically, but you are trying to get better. And it's a challenge. It's not easy.
And I have another question. Is like, every time I watch an interview with you, how do you do to be so happy every time? Like, I've never seen you like with a poker face.
Well, you know, when I was playing, I was pretty serious, but I would try to focus, because if I was, you know, being distracted, I lost my concentration. And when I lost in Wimbledon, my opponent kind of faked an injury, kind of funny, and I kind of played along with it, and then I kind of lost my focus, and all of a sudden, I lost the match. So when I was playing, I had to really make sure I was focused. But you know, I've been very fortunate in my life. The timing of everything that's taken place. When open tennis started in 1968, it's right when I graduated from college. And so it was a very natural transition from amateur tennis, we're playing for nothing, to professional tennis. And I was right at that stage when I was starting to become a good player. And you know, I've got a wonderful wife, I've got 4 wonderful children now, 9 grandchildren, and that is very special. So, you know, my accomplishments in life have been good, but my greatest accomplishment has been, you know, my family and what I've seen them do and grow up to be.
When you watch the tennis right now, we have superstars like Nadal, and when you watch them, they look like to be technological players, you know. They're improving with technology, they're training with new stuff.
Yeah.
It's very like, you know, when you see like in Rocky with Ivan Drago, like it's technological, you know.
Yeah.
How do you look this generation?
Well, you know, we have so many great players now. The depth is fantastic, and we have good young players coming. We've had 4 players that have dominated the game the last 10 years, you know, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Murray. And now we're getting some other players, you know, like Nishikori, and Frere has been there as well. And there's some good young ones, younger than that, coming on team. And of course, Berdych has been in there as well. And so the technology has changed the game. And the older players like me, most of them would say they like Federer because of the one-handed backhand. He has all the shots. He can topspin, he can slice, he can drop shot, he can hit angles. You know, he's been without a coach some of the time, with a coach, but you know, he's a good thinker, you know, and he has to think through. And the great thing about tennis, and it reflects, it mirrors life to a certain extent. At some point in time, you're out there by yourself, and you have to figure it out. And you have to be physically strong. I was always pretty strong. You have to be have good technique. You have to be able to figure out your opponent, and then when things get difficult emotionally, you have to hang in there.
Yeah.
And the great players figure out a way to win when they're not playing their best. And there's so many good players out there now that if you're not playing your best, you know, you're going to have a hard time.
And the face of the tennismen have changed. Back then it was like, in our mind, it was like a sport for the rich, you know?
Well,
and then we had examples like Yannick Noah.
6-2, 7-5, 7-6, Yannick Noah a réalisé son rêve.
To see like mixed people in the tennis.
well, I think that tennis is difficult because it requires, you know, money to get out there and play and to train and to have lessons and travel and that sort of thing. But my philosophy, I love to see different colors of people wearing on the court. I like to see different personalities. I like to see the people that are great athletes have the opportunity. And we're seeing that with some players. And Yannick was a great example of a player that was not from a rich family, that he was sort of discovered. Arthur Ashe had a part of that, and he was able to come and play. Kyrgios is another, you know, flamboyant guy. Nastase, when I was playing, was, you know, kind of from a basic family in Romania, but it's still difficult to get out there and to really get into the tour because it is an expensive sport. But I like to see more of a broader spectrum of players from different backgrounds. The Williams sisters are great examples.
Great to see the sisters back together on centre court at Wimbledon.
They grew up in Compton, California, about 30 minutes from where I grew up in Pasadena. And I grew up in sort of a middle-class area in Pasadena. There's a kind of a wealthy area, and I was more in the middle, lower income. And the Williams sisters grew up in Compton, which is a difficult, you know, area there, and they were able to make it, and it's a great story.
Middle fingers up, put 'em hands high. Wave it in his face, tell him boy bye.
Let's talk back about the shoes, because let's talk about the technology. When you did those shoes, it was like to have those bands to breathe, to make breathe, those three stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I always say my shoe was born in France because it was created in France by Horst Dassler and a great French player, the #1 player at the time, Robert Haile. And Robert and Horst created the shoe in 1965, the first ever high-tech leather shoe. And at the time, of course, there's leather football shoes, track shoes, running shoes, but there were canvas tennis shoes. So they created the shoe. And then in 71, 72, they realized they wanted to get a stronger presence in the United States market. And so I was the #1 player in the world at the time, and American, so we had an arrangement where Robert Haile's name was on the shoe and my picture was on the shoe for about 3 years, and then at that point in time it evolved off the shoe, and so then it was just my name. So I got to know Robert Haile and his son as well, who was a good tennis player, and it was I thought it might be a 5-year relationship, and then we renewed for another 5 years and another 5 years, and so now it's been 44 years or something like that. And then the shoe in 2012 and 13 was starting to lose sort of its momentum, so they took it off the market totally. And then in 2014 they relaunched the shoe, and it became kind of a
So the
a
shoe did
cultural
this,
shoe.
after she did this.
It went like this, and then it went like this, and then it went like this, and then it stopped totally. And then it was reborn, and it's been going crazy ever since.
Before to leave, I'd like to talk to you about the Olympics Games. You've been the coach of the US team in Sydney, and from the American point of view, I'd like to know what does it mean, the Olympic spirit?
Well, I think that when you talk to the Olympic athletes in general, and certainly the Americans love the team concept and to represent the country. And I think that you look at, the players around the world. Nadal is going to be carrying the flag. So hopefully he can play in the Olympics. But Davis Cup and Fed Cup is very special. I played in the Davis Cup team for 10 years. We were able to win 7 times, and it was very, very special to be on a team to represent the country. And when they call the score, they don't say advantage Smith or game, set, and match to Smith. They say game, set, match to the United States. And you suddenly realize you're representing, millions of people. And so it's a very special feeling to play Davis Cup. It's the same thing with the Olympics. Tennis has not been a big part until it relaunched again in 1988. In 1924, it was here in Paris, and that was the last year that tennis was in the Olympics. And now it'll be the 100th year anniversary, hopefully, if Paris gets the Olympics in 2024, which would be great. To have a 100-year anniversary here in Paris would be great. And then, of course, tennis being that sport that was here until 24, then it was gone until 88.
Let's hope that Paris will have the Olympics. Let's hope.
It would be great. It'd be tremendous to see all these stadiums many of them are already here, and then to see that whole event is so special. It would be great to have it here.
And you have nothing in common with Will Smith. You are not the father of Will Smith.
I don't think so, but there are a lot of Smiths around, and so you never know. But
I always thought that Stan Smith was the father of Will Smith. No, can you?
I think that probably is not true.
Sorry.
He is one of the great actors of all time, that's for sure.
You are one of the greatest players of all time. For the real, I'm talking with the legend. I'm so happy. And you are not the Stan of the Eminem song.
It's the Stan.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But Jay-Z, my daughter came up to me when she was about 14. That was about 20 years ago. She said, "Dad, you're famous." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you're in Jay-Z's song." And I said, "Well, who's Jay-Z?"
What's my motherfucking name?
But anyway, that was sort of the first time I realized the culture. And then Usher, had the shoes, and now you got Pharrell Williams and Kanye West, and it's crazy. Giselle is wearing the shoe, and it's kind of exciting to see what's happened.
You made the shoes famous.
I made that bitch famous.
I don't know, maybe the shoes made me famous.
Last question, what's your definition of a clique?
Of a clique. A group of people going after the same goal. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
My pleasure.